Hey, I'm Olivia, and you're listening to Soarin Around WDW. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Soarin Around WDW. Today, I have a special guest with me. Her name is Katie, and she is our personal travel agent, neighbor, and friend. And we have gotten to know Katie kind of through the neighborhood, but also through our mutual love of Disney, which has been really fun. So she has helped me, even though I consider myself to be a pretty big Disney expert. I think over the years, so much has changed since we moved to North Carolina. And so it's helpful having someone who's super familiar with the parks, has done a lot of more recent hotels, restaurants, and some of the tips and tricks for getting around lightning lanes and things like that, as Katie knows and has all the knowledge and expertise. So, Katie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
Yep. Hello. Good evening, good morning, whenever you're listening. I was like, we're talking the time of day, but yes, so I'm Katie Smith and I am behind the 2+3 Travelers is my Instagram. And I also am a Disney advisor, a certified travel advisor for Disney, or who specializes in Disney, excuse me. I have to say it correctly, otherwise I'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, Disney is one of my favorite things. So if you're looking for help with Disney, I'm here to help. I The crazy thing I was telling somebody the other day, they're like, "Why Disney?" And I was like, and the one fact that I shared with them that they like their jaw dropped was I've been to the parks, even though we're out of state. I've been to the parks every month for the last 3 years.
Wow, that is crazy. I don't think I knew that. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, even if I just go down and do a day trip, I've been there once a month and now like this has been like my funny like I don't know side quest in life. And so I booked the day trips just to go down so that I can say that I've been in the parks every day or every month for the last 3 years.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we'll get into a little bit more of how you do that and kind of what your tips and tricks are for out of state people, because we do have a lot of out of state listeners as well as Florida listeners too. But I think it's like a big difference being an annual pass holder out of state versus in state, obviously.
Yeah.
So tell
Yep.
me a little bit about your first memories of Disney, when your first trip was, and how you caught the Disney itch, so to speak.
Well, when I was younger, we went to Disney. So I grew up in Kentucky, so not close, and so it was like a thing to go to, but I never like it wasn't like a huge thing in our family when we were younger. I definitely remember, the great movie ride and doing the backstage tour and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So that probably was like my favorite part was like the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And we went back a couple of times. I remember when I was in just out of college, I asked for my birthday to go to Disney for a day because I hadn't been there in so long. I was like 20 in my mid 20s or so. So we
Yeah.
did that, but my birthday is always at Thanksgiving, so it was like the day after Thanksgiving, and that wasn't the best time, to go to
Yeah.
Disney. Anyhow, so but my Disney itch came when my daughter was almost 2 years old and I saw the magic through her eyes, and she's what really
Yes.
sparked it. So we went, we're like, oh, we'll take her and we'll do the thing. And then the once in a lifetime trip came going once a month for 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
my husband ended up having a job that took him to Orlando often, and I was working part-time, so we would go with him. And while he was at work, we got annual passes. So that's when we got annual passes, and we would go into the parks while he was at work. So like I'd push the kids in the stroller and we would go and just do a few things, and then he would come back and nap, and then we'd hang out in the hotel until he got back from work, and then we'd go spend a couple hours in the park in the evening when he was done. So
That's
like
awesome.
that's what started it. And that was pre-pandemic. So,
And was that when you guys were living in North Carolina then at that point when your daughter was born and when she was around that
yes.
age?
So she was almost 2. We've been in North Carolina um her whole life. So, yeah, he had to go down and it was easy. And then when I had my second kiddo, that's when it was like I stepped back from full-time work and I was only working part-time, which made it easy for me to travel with them. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I did not know that. So that's kind of how you got started. And at that time, were you guys staying off property, like wherever his work stuff was, or would you stay on property, or what did that look like then?
So we stayed on property because like he would rent a car and then he would go and then I was able to use um transportation on Disney property with the
Yeah,
kids. And we stayed at like All Star because you could get a really reasonable rate at All Star that was comparable to him staying at any other hotel like down in
yeah.
Orlando. So we would just stay on property and his work would pay for it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great way to kind of hack the system, so to speak, and
Yeah.
get to stay on property. And like you said, use transportation because that's huge if you just have the one car. So that's great.
Hmm.
So then that answers my next question. So first came annual pass before travel agent.
Yeah.
So when did you join the travel agent side of things?
So I had gone a whole bunch of times, and actually one of our other neighbors had gone with me. Abby, she was like, you know so much stuff, and like people would call me and be like, can I talk to you and like figure things out? And she's like, quit giving out advice for free.
Yeah, yeah, fair.
So she's like, actually, just so I don't do travel advisor for, a job. I do it because I think it's fun. Like it allows me to talk Disney to people and get some money out of it. I always tell people when I'm working with them that it's not, I'm gonna go and try and find you like the best deal. I'm not gonna be like trying to upsell you something. That's not what I'm there for. I'm completely opposite of the salesperson that my husband is.
Yeah.
Um, that's what he does is sales. And I'm like, no, like, how can I get you a better deal? Or how can we make this work out better? Like, I'm like the penny pincher, like looking for it. And he's definitely like the salesperson. And I'm like, no, no, no. If I can like run this promo or I know a promo is coming up and I can know that I like save somebody like $300 on their trip, I'm like, yes, I did a good job.
Yeah, and you saved us money on our last trip, so I definitely appreciated that. That's awesome. How did
Yeah.
you decide on the company that you ended up working with for this? Was it like you knew somebody else, or did you research different companies, or?
So when we went to Disney before the Disney itch, like our first trip, um, one of my friends from high school, she was part of this travel agency. So it's Key to the World Travel. And so she planned our trip for us. And then she had been part of the company for a while. And I figured, oh, if she liked it, then I was like, okay. So I started looking into it at that point because she's the only person that I knew.
Yeah,
Um, and I really didn't do much research because I was like, well, it's not like a huge thing for me. It's not going to be my full-time gig,
yeah.
but it's been wonderful. It's such a supportive agency and they're great. So I'm glad. I mean, I'm figured she made a good decision. So
Yeah, that works. That's good that you like knew someone personally because I feel like you meet people who work in it and sometimes you don't know like really how they feel about it, but I feel like knowing someone personally is a good way to kind of get in there. And
yeah.
is there a favorite trip that you've gotten to help plan for someone working with the agency?
I think every trip is fun because it's a little bit different. Like when I talk to people, they're like what their goals are and like what they want to accomplish or, how old their kids are, or if we get like a bibbity boppity for somebody.
Yeah.
It's like I know a couple of trips that I've done. I told them I was like, don't stress too much. Like if you don't get bippity boppity, like right off when you want it. I was like, they drop all the time. And so like I have the tracker and so my phone like constantly buzzes. I'm like, we'll get it worked out, I promise. But like
Yeah.
one of the families that I was doing one for, they're like, it would be absolutely awesome if we could do bippity boppity and then Cinderella's royal table. Like that is like, the whole
Oh
thing.
wow, that's a big ask.
It was, but we got it. And
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
I was like, that makes me really happy. And it was their daughter's first time going too. So like it was and the grandparents were coming just for like 2 of those days. And so it ended up being like this magical day for them and that made me happy.
That's awesome. Yeah, that definitely takes some skill because like you said, they do drop, but sometimes it's like very difficult to get one, especially both and like same day and everything. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's fun. And then as an annual pass holder living out of state, so when you became an annual pass holder, so now how many years has it been that you guys have held annual passes and have you ever let them lapse or have you always kept them since that initial?
So we became annual pass holders in 2019. I
Okay.
So it was pre-pandemic that we were pass holders. And so then when Disney shut down, they kept on extending our pass. So for as long as it was shut down, they extended it out. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, so they're like, well, it's closed for this month, so then we'll add on another month. So it just kept on like going in that way. And so we've actually kept them up since we started it.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like I know a lot of people, and we had them when we lived in Florida. We've talked about that a couple of times on this podcast, and once we moved out of state, we let them go. But part of me wishes that I never would have, because it's like once you're paying for it and it's like a monthly thing, it doesn't seem so bad. I mean, they definitely have increased in price since we had them. I think our Florida in-state pass, which in-state is cheaper, was like $500 for the year and didn't really have blackout dates and stuff like that. So it's just changed like so much. But out of state is
Hmm.
just getting pricier and pricier.
Yes.
So yeah, it can be hard. But then if you go a lot, like you said, if you're going every month, it is 100% worth it to have the annual pass and the perks that come with it.
Yeah.
And what do you think your kids think of being able to go to Disney so much? Do they ever get tired of Disney, so to speak? This is something that I was asked a lot when we were young kids, and my answer was always no. But have your kids ever kind of been like, all right, I'm over it?
I think my daughter's starting to get there because
Yeah.
one of the things I think you had seen recently is that we went to Epic. And so,
Yes.
um, so she's like, oh, there's other things.
Yeah.
And she's like, we want to go to the beach or we want to do this. And we're like, okay, like she's starting to understand that there's like life outside of Disney. But I was like, no, it must be really cool, like you being a kid to a Disney adult because, I'll come pick her up early from school and be like, she's like, where are we going? I'm like, you know where we're going.
Yeah, that's so fun.
Um, but the boys are younger and so they've only known like going all the time and it's just normal to them. So my youngest will be like, are we going to Mickey's house? And we're like, two more nights, two more sleeps, buddy, and then we'll go to Mickey's house.
Yeah, that's so fun. Yeah, that's great. I know we similarly grew growing up and going all the time. I remember there was one point where we were going like every other weekend because we lived there, and my brother was eventually like, "Okay, I'm kind of done going so often," but I still really like loved it. I never kind of went through that phase, but I remember we kind of like slowly backed off and then weren't going quite as much, but we still kept our annual passes as kids for a long time. So yeah, it's hard when they hit the age and they're like, there's things else out there, which we'll definitely talk about Epic. But once my brother started to go to Universal and things like that and became older and bigger roller coasters, but now it's funny because he's way more Disney obsessed than he is Universal as an adult at this point. But I think a lot of it is just the nostalgia and memories for us too, for sure. And then have you considered DVC? And if so, which resort would you choose if you could? I know it works a little differently when you buy into an old property versus like a newer property and stuff like that. But have you guys ever thought about DVC? I'm sure you have, but how seriously have you thought about it? And which resort do you think you guys would want?
So we've done the DVC tour. Um, and we've seriously considered it. And again, like if we would have done it when we got our annual passes, then I would have like it would have made a lot more sense too.
Hmm.
But I don't think we're going to. We talked about it since we drive all the time. So we had 9 hours
Yeah.
to drive back and we talked about it seriously. And we were like, weighed the pros and the cons and tried to like figure out what would be good. And ultimately we decided not to. But if we did pick a resort, it probably would be Boardwalk.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's one that we've always toyed with as well. Is it just because of the convenience of being right by Epcot and Hollywood and all that? Yeah.
Yep, it is totally like since things change a little bit too when you've got, small kiddos. And so walkability and strollers is like, top notch. So that you could walk to two parks and not have to take a sleeping kid out of a stroller is,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That is a big factor. But I feel like even then, once they're right out of the stroller, that's also nice too, because again, walking like long distance is not ideal, but being able to walk and not having to, I don't know, that I feel like is a perk and getting to walk back to nap. That's also a
Yep.
big perk as well.
Yeah.
You just went on your first Disney cruise recently, so talk a little bit about your experience and where is your next cruise destination?
So we did the Marvel Day at Sea. Since on the East Coast, our Marvel is separate at Universal than at
Mm-hmm.
Disney. So we have no Avengers campus. We don't have, any of the superheroes. And my boys absolutely adore Spider-Man. And so when we decided that we were going to do a Disney cruise, I was like, okay, it has to be Marvel Day at Sea so that they can finally get to see the superheroes because my daughter always got to see the princesses. So now the
Yeah.
boys needed to have their time. And so that was quite amazing. And I wanted to make sure that we went to both of Disney's islands. So we got to do Castaway Key and Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point. And that was that was something that I really wanted to do too because being a travel advisor, the reason I like to do Disney is because I have the experience of it. I can book other things, but I don't feel as comfortable because I haven't personally done them all. And so I don't like doing and booking things for people if I haven't had the experience to be like, oh, you should do, like
Yeah.
I would rather have the personal experience. And so I was like, okay, I need to go to both islands so that I can tell and talk to people about them. And I definitely feel more comfortable like sharing tips and tricks and things that I learned on our Disney cruise with other people. Um, but our next cruise, I believe, we're like 95% sure. Um, because we had this cruise booked and then the pandemic happened. And so now it's like I have to fill this dream of going, but it's into Europe and you leave out of London and then you go up into the fjords of Norway.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
And so that would be next um it shifted. So it's the end of July, beginning of August 2026.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so you did the deposit on your last cruise for this cruise?
Hmm.
Okay, great. Yeah, that will be a really cool one. I feel like that's like unique and not just like the Caribbean, like a lot of people end up doing. It's something different and really cool that you'll have that experience. And what do you know what room you guys would do? Remind me, you did a balcony room on this last cruise, the double room.
We did double rooms, both with verandas, yes. And this time it's nice to have like we're like honestly, we were on the Dream and it was cool because even the inside rooms that have like the magical portholes, they have the video of like what's outside anyway. And I
That's
don't
cool.
know, like we sat on the balcony a few times, but I was like, I don't know that the price difference for the balcony makes sense. We would definitely do, I think being in Europe, I would want to be able to sit in a window and like look. So I think we'd at least do an ocean view.
Yeah.
Um, the insides, though, I was like, well, I don't know. And I think we might even just do one room this time,
Yeah.
now that we know. But like that was like our first cruise. We're like, okay, we're gonna do a little splurge that we'll just do two rooms and balconies and all that kind of stuff. And so that was our splurged kind of trip. And now I think like we've had the experience, so we can probably just do one room, all of five of us, and it'll be okay.
Yeah, and that's for all the listeners out there that haven't heard. Katie was on Where I Long to Be, which is another great Disney podcast that does pre-trip reports and post-trip reports, and she went into great detail about her cruise. So if you're looking for advice on the cruise and what to do, not to do, definitely reach out to Katie and also listen to that episode because I think it was really helpful. And as somebody who's been on a Disney cruise, but it's been a long time and was not with kids, it definitely helped us start to think about when we do our Disney cruise what we would want that to look like. So it's really really good and a great episode, great listen. And so your most recent Disney trip, so we were just talking kind of before we got on this recording, you just got back from Disney about a week ago was your most recent, and you guys were at Blizzard Beach for its 30th birthday party. So how was that experience? And is that your favorite water park out of the two? Have you been to Typhoon Lagoon as well?
So that was the first, actually, so my March trip, we were there on St. Patrick's Day, and that was the first time I'd ever been to a Disney water park. Um,
Okay.
we went back 2 weeks later for my kids' spring break and we went back to Blizzard Beach because Typhoon Lagoon's not open yet. It's closed for refurbishment, but it will be opening soon. It was fun. I think the kids had a lot of fun, and I was glad that I went to Blizzard Beach with my daughter first and her friend so I could like kind of get the lay of the land. And then when I came back with my boys, I think it made our trip a lot easier at Blizzard Beach because I knew what to expect. I wasn't doing it, you know, for the
Totally
first
blind.
time.
Yeah.
And so I think that made it a much better experience for our family. And we didn't spend the entire day there, but we got there when they opened and it was definitely fun because it was their 30th. There was other things that they were doing. So they had special 30th tattoos.
Oh,
And so
fun.
they had like tattoo stations around. So my kids thought that was like the coolest thing. So like, and then it was my daughter's actual birthday. And so you can't wear your birthday button at the water park.
Yeah.
Did you know that they have special happy birthday that look like the buttons, but they are tattoos?
Oh, cool. That's
She was
awesome.
able to put on a birthday button tattoo while she was at the water park. So
Oh,
everybody got to know it's
fun.
still her birthday.
That's
I was like,
awesome.
that's a pretty cool. So they've got first visit. So if you go and it's your first visit, you can get a first visit tattoo.
Tattoo. Okay,
Or you can get a
awesome.
happy birthday one. I don't think they had any of the I'm celebrating or the like anniversary ones.
Yeah.
But they I know they had the birthday and the first visit tattoos, which was pretty cool.
That is fun. Yeah. And was that part of the promotion that like you get in for free on your check-in day?
That was. So we did a split stay because we decided to add on so that my daughter could be there for her birthday. We were supposed to go down the next day, but she was like, "We won't be there for my birthday." I was like, "Fine, we'll go."
Yeah.
And she didn't know. We surprised her and we got in the car
Oh,
and what?
fun.
Like we're going now for your birthday. And she's like, "Yay." So, which was cool that and they had like chalk art and they had snow cones and they had just different things all around for their 30th, which was neat. They had a
Okay,
DJ
cool.
playing the whole time. Oh, that was the cool thing. They had a DJ playing at the wave pool the whole time, and he was playing music from the 90s. From
Oh,
when,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
And it was also, this is the 30th anniversary of Goofy movie. And so
Yeah.
they were playing Goofy movie stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it was like, I could have sat there all day because they were playing like all the songs from my childhood, which was
Yeah.
amazing.
That is amazing. That's perfect. That like makes it even better for the parents, I feel like, that were all
Yeah.
there with their kids that grew up in that generation.
Yeah.
Cool. That's fun. Yeah, we've been to both and only when we were kids though. I have not been as an adult and I definitely like Blizzard Beach better. So I'm glad that that's the one that y'all ended up going to because I just think it's better themed and I really like it. But again, I haven't been in a long time, so it could have changed. And I did read that this is the first year in a long time that they're going to have both water parks open at once here pretty soon.
Hmm.
So that's exciting for people. But yes, for those of y'all who haven't heard in previous episodes, they are doing a promotion where on your check-in day, you actually get to go to whichever water park is open. Right now, it's Blizzard Beach. When they're both open, we'll have to see how that works. But you get to go in for free on your check-in day, which is really cool. We didn't really have a lot of extra time when we went in March to do that, but it's a nice little perk that they're adding for people who are staying at Disney resorts, and it's any of them, including the value, which is really nice. So on that trip, you guys also did some Run Disney race stuff. So which races have you done so far? I know you guys have done quite a few.
This is actually my third one. So it's not
Okay.
a great number. It was my third Run Disney weekend. The last one, so this was our first time we did the springtime surprise. But previously, I had done the princess weekends, and
Okay.
I did princess a couple years ago, and I got a medal. And so my daughter was like, "Ugh, you get a medal?" And so then she was like, I want a medal. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, you have to go run the race to do it. And so she was like, okay, well, I'm doing it with you next year, which was last year. And so she did the 5K with me last year at Princess. We can't do Princess anymore. That's why we didn't do it this year, is because her dance competitions end up being the same weekend as it.
Oh, yeah.
So
Hmm.
last year, I was a complete crazy person. I did the 5K with her, and I guess my husband too. We did the 5K, and he drove all three kids home, drove them home from Florida, nine
Florida.
hours by himself. I stayed one extra night, got up, did the 10K, went to Magic Kingdom, took my pictures with my medals, then got on the plane, flew home, and did her dance competition, and then ended up staying up until like, 10 p.m. when we got back. And like, because you get up at 2:30 in the morning to do Run Disney races. And
Yeah,
everyone was like, wait, you did
that's
what? And I was like, yep.
crazy.
I was there for her competition though. So it was
That's
funny.
dedication. That is some like true dedication for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
awesome.
this
Yeah.
one, the one that we just did, she did the 5K with me. So no dance competitions this weekend. And so we did Springtime Surprise. So she and I both did the 5K. And I decided I turned 40 this year or this past year. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I did the challenge and I ran
Oh,
all three
wow.
races because I was like, I've never done anything more than the 10K. So the 10 miler, this is the only one that they do the 10 miles. And I
Yeah.
was, okay, I can do 10 miles. And I did it and I completed it. And that was my accomplishment for 40.
That's awesome. Yeah, especially doing all of them in one weekend. That is a lot. The 10 mile has always intrigued me because I always really liked the course route that they have. So they used to have like it was called the Tower of Terror 10 miler, kind of depending. Is that the same name that they use now or do they change it? It
It's just
depends on the theme.
the 10 miler,
The
yeah.
10 miler. Okay. Yeah.
Um,
So that's super
and
fun.
they only do the 10 miler for springtime surprise.
Okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's the half.
The half. Yep. Yep. Okay, awesome. Yeah. And have you had a lot of trouble like getting on the into the runs that you want or not necessarily? It sounds like you've gotten pretty much the ones that you want to get into for the most part.
Yes, multiple screens, multiple people.
Yeah.
And we actually have another race signed up for at this point. So we were signed up for the wine and dine this year.
Oh, fun.
However, I think we're not going to be able to go, which is because our Disney connection, she's actually getting married that weekend, and I didn't look at the correct calendars when I was booking that. And so we are to be at her wedding, and Tegan is her flower girl, so we have
Oh,
to be there.
fun.
And
Yes, of course.
so we may just have to forego our wine and dine, but the
Okay.
theme this
Well,
year looked pretty cool.
understandable. And then you also did the Castaway Key. Is
Oh
it
yes.
Castaway K? Castaway Key.
Yeah,
5K as well.
we did.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fun. We did that one when we did our cruise, but we ended up like not really super running it because it was hot. That place gets like so hot. And we went in July, so it was like incredibly hot. There's not a lot of shade and coverage on that
No,
route.
not at all.
So it is difficult for sure. Okay, cool. And then kind of jumping into Epic Universe. So you got to go to Epic Universe for a preview. So tell me a little bit about how you got into that and what your thoughts were, because I'm sure it was incredible.
So that same Disney connection. So she was actually our nanny during the pandemic.
Oh,
And
awesome.
she was friends with Elsa prior to the pandemic.
Cool.
And so she came back and was in attractions. And then she came back and was able to go back to entertainment and was friends with Ray. And then ended up taking her adventure to Paris and then Shanghai. And while she was in
Wow.
Shanghai, she found out about Epic. And so she ended up for my daughter's birthday, since we were on spring break for her birthday, was able to get us friends and family tickets to go to Epic with her for a day.
That's amazing.
So we were super lucky that timing worked out and all the things. And so we got to spend the day there. We actually had to leave a little early because before they closed the park so that we could get over to the expo to go get our bibs for the races.
Yeah.
But we, yeah, we had like, it was so much fun. The way that the park is set up and the different portals that you go through are amazing. So like you're transported into each, land that you go into. And
Yeah.
the one that we ended up spending the most amount of time in was the Isle of Berk for the How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
And my daughter has really gotten into that. And so we got to meet Toothless.
Oh, so
We got to pet
fun.
him and take pictures. So we did have pictures from that. We weren't allowed to take any of our own photos or videos or anything while we were there because it was still, I guess under lockdown for previews and because they were trying all the different things.
Yeah.
And so then now all the influencers got to take all the pictures. So like as we're watching this, I was like trying to explain to my husband what it was like, and I was like, "Oh, okay, now look at this picture.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah.
this." Like we had so many cool experiences while we were in there, and I'm bummed that I wasn't able to like
Capture it. Yeah.
capture it, but then it also was I was fully there. Like,
True.
you weren't behind the camera trying to like capture the whole entire thing. I was actually like experiencing all of it. So it was like, double-edged sword. But I loved like we had fun. So we met Toothless and then Hiccup. And then we met the twins and got to ride all of the rides that were in the Isle of Berk. The only thing we didn't get to see was the show
Okay.
because they had some technical issue. Like again, it's like dress rehearsals, and so that's why we were there. They were trying
Yeah.
to get everything worked out. That was cool. And then we had lunch in Super Nintendo World,
Awesome.
but that's where everybody goes. If you are planning on going, it just like I feel like the other portals were not as busy because everybody was in Super Nintendo World.
See, I'm kind of surprised about that only because the West Coast has like a Super Nintendo World. It's not the same, but I mean, it's really cool, so I get that part of it. But I am surprised that so many people went there versus some of the other things that aren't on the West Coast are like more unique experiences.
Yeah. So we didn't ride anything in Super Mario World. It was so busy and we just didn't do it. We ate at the Toadstool Cafe though.
That's cool. Yeah, that's so fun. I do feel like that's the one that, other than the Ministry of Magic, that I'm most excited about is Super Nintendo. But I do think, yeah, the Ministry of Magic looked insane. Is your daughter into Harry Potter, or is she like, I know she's a little young maybe yet to like kind of be into that, at least that part of Harry Potter, because it gets like a little bit dark. But
So we've told them, like all of our kids were like, you have to get into Harry Potter before we take you to Universal.
yeah.
And I was like, I'm not gonna waste this like taking you to Universal and you don't like get any of the things. Um my light just went off.
Oh, that's
Um
good.
um But so we started like we watched the movies, we started to read the books with her. So they have like a concept of it, but the
Mhm.
Harry Potter, this part of it is in France because it's more focused on the what is it? The Fantastical Beasts.
Oh,
No,
yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, so Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic Beasts. Yes. So the Ministry of Magic, so it's all in France is where that
Okay.
portal is set up. And that's actually where our nanny's working. And so
Oh,
she's
awesome.
doing the stage show um in there. So that I had to get it right. Fantastic Beasts. And so while we were in there, it was really cool because they had students from the different wizarding schools walking around. So there was a Beauxbaton and somebody from Hogwarts, and then one
Oh,
from
wow.
yeah. So it was really neat. So if you run into them, ask them about the Monster Book of Monsters
Okay.
because we got to see that. The one that like from under the
Yeah,
bed like jumps out and gets Harry's shoe and stuff. We got to see that book. That was really cool.
that's
Uh,
so cool.
and then in France. So you'll know from like Harry Potter, they say that the wand chooses the wizard. Well, in France, the wizard chooses the wand.
Oh, interesting.
Cosme, it's her wand shop, and she designed them after different beasts and different features that she saw. And there's a story behind each wand and what kind of wizard would you wield which wand? That is a very tongue twister.
Yeah, a very tongue twister, wielding the wands of the wizards.
Yes. And so we got to talk with her and we got to hear what was the inspiration for each of her 10 different wands. And so My daughter picked out her wand and she picked out Ivy, and it's very,
Oh,
very pretty.
cool.
So that was really fun. And then so we got to go around and we got to try all the different spells throughout the land.
Wow, what an awesome experience. That's so cool. And then the other section is more of like the monsters, like darker side. Did you guys go over there at all or?
We walked into that part, and the coaster that they have in there is really cool. It's outside, but it spins like Guardians,
Okay.
but I think it like constantly spins kind of thing as opposed to like I don't know,
Being so smooth.
maybe like
Yeah.
teacups on. I don't know. We didn't end up writing that. We got in line in the mansion and then we got stopped by this box and it started like shaking and screaming and that's where we lost Deegan.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was a little more freaky in there. And then like as we were walking around, we saw the invisible man. He had bandages wrapped around him, so that is how we saw him because
Yeah.
everyone was like, "How did you see him?"
Yeah, he's invisible. Yeah.
And then we popped into the monster makeovers, so like, adults can get the whole monster makeover thing. And so we like
Yeah.
went in there to see the different like things that they would make you over as and that kind of thing. Teens like, can I get a makeover? And I was like, no, you're not going to get a monster makeover.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you walk into that shop, so it was really cool getting to go into the different places and like our with our nanny because she was explaining some things. So if you look around in the gift shop or like the exit to the monsters makeover, there are some containers that held some different monsters or different little creatures on the container, but two are missing and you have to locate.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That was a fun little fact. So we spent some time looking for that. Yeah, it was really cool. That one, there's also, and I didn't realize this, and I'm gonna get this like horribly wrong because I am not a monsters person, and so I apologize in advance if people are and they're listening, and I'm sorry. But like the windmill that catches fire, it's the burning something.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I didn't realize that there's a tavern below it. Like it just looks like the way that it was, there was nobody like walking around, so it just looked like these two doors. And so then
Yeah.
we walked up to it, and it's actually there's a bar there.
Oh, that's really cool.
Like a full-on bar below it. And I was like, that's crazy. And that goes off apparently. Here's the other things that we learned about every 20 minutes. So like on the hour.
Okay.
So like if you're looking to catch that on fire. And so, but yeah, and that does not have that bar, the tavern does not have any fun kid drinks.
Okay.
Strictly
Interesting.
adult, strictly adult drinks. Whereas like Oga's, you can go in and like they have the non-alcoholic beverages for kids that are kind of fun. This is just strictly adult beverages. So,
Okay. I wonder if that will change eventually. That's interesting that
well,
it's
they
only like,
had sodas, but they didn't have like concoctions
yeah.
that are
Yeah.
kid
Like
friendly.
fun, like unique named
Hmm.
themed mixed drinks. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Awesome. Well, that's such a cool experience that you got to, see. Thank you for sharing with all of us too.
Yeah.
That's really fun. So, speaking of big new announcements and different things, what are you looking forward to most from the D23 announcements that happened in the fall after seeing Epic? Is there anything that you think would be able to compete, or do you feel like a lot is going to fall short? I know it's hard to know so early on with some of these announcements, but is there one that you think, like, do you think Villains has a chance of competing with this, or what are your thoughts there?
I don't know. Villains, like it's a stage show.
Or I guess like when they make the Villains land
Okay, I was
eventually.
gonna say like the villains thing that's like since this is like supposed to launch May 22nd,
Soon. Yeah.
that is May 27th that villains thing is happening. I
Yeah,
was like,
that's not going to compete. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I really like I'm sad that Muppets is being relocated.
Yeah.
Understand, like
Hmm.
Beaker and Bunsen are like they got my heart, but monsters will be pretty cool. I like that is one of the things from being in Disneyland and then that I feel like we're missing in Disney World is some kind of monsters or, like
Yeah.
Monsters Incorporated kind of thing. Like I know we've got the laugh floor, but that doesn't compare to the ride that they have in Disney.
Totally. Yeah, I like the dark ride in Disneyland a lot.
So I'm excited about that coming and like how that whole area will change. And then I guess Rock and Roller Coaster being like the Muppets Mayhem, like they've already released that kind of album. So I'm assuming those are the songs that they're going to use and with, Dr. Teeth. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess like having the Monsters roller coaster is probably what I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah, me too. I think this is something that a lot of people have like schemed up for a long time. And so now that they've like confirmed and just some of the technology they've already shown looks
Hmm.
really cool. So I
Yep.
agree. That's the thing I was most excited about too, for sure. I think the Villains Land eventually will be really cool. That's just going to be so far down the line before it actually is complete.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how it changes the entire Magic Kingdom, just the way that it looks now with Rivers of America and everything. It'll be different for sure. And then what do you think now that you have been to Universal and seen other things, especially with Epic Universe? What do you think makes Disney so special or so unique compared to other theme parks like Universal or Six Flags or like what we have here in North Carolina?
This is something that I was like sharing with my daughter as we were driving over to Universal. And I think this is still just like not just Disney specific, but I will say Walt Disney World in Florida specific is
Hmm.
what makes that place magical is the bubble you enter.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's what makes it different from any other theme park. When you get onto Disney, like Disney World property, it is a world.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
like that's the thing. Like you leave reality behind and like you are part of this bubble of like everything that around you is just meticulously cared for and you don't have to worry about anything. I feel like the thing that's different than Universal, like you don't get onto Universal property and feel like you've been transported to a different place.
Hmm.
Like there's a fast food restaurant right there across the, street from you, or like, even when you're at your hotel, like it doesn't feel like transported to somewhere else. I know the hotels aren't what makes it, but it's just that you are in this complete bubble of non-adult responsibilities.
Yeah, totally.
Even if you don't
Yeah.
want to
And
drive a car, you don't have to drive a car. You can go enjoy an adult beverage and then somebody else will drive you home. Um,
yes.
like I know that other parks have transportation, but it still isn't the same feeling because it isn't an overall feeling.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's what makes it different because I feel like, yeah, you can go to the other parks, but like when you're in the theme park, it feels different, but like that's not your entire stay.
Yeah, definitely. And like even Disneyland, like you said, it's like very much in the city of Anaheim and they're, even they only have their couple of resorts and then everything else kind of off property and it's a much more locals park for sure
Mhm.
there.
Yep.
But yeah, there's something about that Disney World bubble that is just very special and unique to anywhere else, like you said. That's really true. Cool. Well, so a couple of rapid fire questions for you before we wrap up here today. So, wanted to go through a few things. So, first, what is your favorite attraction today at Walt Disney World? It can be a show, can be a ride. What's your favorite thing, like number one out of all the parks on the East Coast here?
Guardians, hands down.
Yeah, Guardians is so cool. I feel like that's Maddie, it's my husband's favorite thing too. Maddie loves that ride. After we went on it, he was like, there is nothing that I've ever experienced like that ever in my life. And he
No, it
also is a
is.
Marvel fan, so that helps.
I mean, I'm not a huge Marvel fan, but just like that ride, I don't know. Like the first time I rode it, I felt sick. Second time I
Yeah.
rode it, I was like, holy cow, this is so cool. And now it's like, okay, that like if I'm going, it's like I will pay the extra money to get an individual lightning lane for that one.
Oh, yes. Yeah, hands down, for sure. Me too. And then what about your favorite at Magic Kingdom?
I do love like nostalgic ride would be Pirates because the smell. But I
Yeah.
think I yeah, but I do enjoy Tiana's now.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's a hot take, but I like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tiana's is really cool. The animatronics are like out of this world.
I like the storyline of it too.
Yeah, that's fun. That's cool. And then what about at Animal Kingdom? Do you have a favorite there?
I love the safari. It's just cool.
Yeah, very cool. And what about Hollywood Studios?
That one's hard. There are so many things that I love there. Going with my kids, I would say Midway Mania
Hmm.
or Toy Story Mania, whatever it is now. Because
Yeah, I
it's
know they
not.
keeps changing. The name keeps changing, but I don't know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Um, and then, but I do enjoy like Rise is just cool just because of like how encompassing that one is. And then just being fun is Runaway Railroad because that one's just it's just cute.
Yeah, very cute. That is very cute. So what is your favorite park, would you say?
That is again a very hard question. It just depends on like what am I feeling like when I want to go. They all have their own unique things and like reasons to go. I mean, is it a festival time? Am I going into Epcot for a festival to try all the
Yeah.
foods? Or, in non-festival time, it would not be an Epcot time. I don't know. I guess it's Hollywood or Magic Kingdom, probably.
Yeah, yeah. I know that's a hard question. And then
It
what
is.
about favorite restaurant? Is there one that you really love, whether it's quick service, sit down, character dining, anything in particular that sticks out in your mind that you love to eat at?
I love 1900 Park Fair of previous when it was
Okay.
like Cinderella and the Stepsisters and Lady Tremaine. I guess we always have enjoyed Hollywood and Vine just because the kids really like it for a character meal.
Yeah.
Um, but like hands down, best food and character meal and everything would be Topolino's for breakfast.
Okay. Yeah, that's high on our list to go to. We have not been yet, but that is definitely we've heard it's awesome.
Their food is just I dream about the mascarpone polenta. It just nothing compares to that.
Okay, awesome. And then what about a restaurant you haven't been to but you want to try or is high on your list?
We've never stayed, so I've stayed at almost every resort at this point, and we've never stayed at Old Key West.
Okay.
And so Olivia's would be what I would want to try.
Yes, it's delicious. I can vouch for that one. I haven't been in a long time, but it was one of our favorites to go to, even just like when visiting the parks since we were local. We would often drive over there for breakfast before the parks or for dinner on the
Hmm.
way back. And it's yeah, it's really good. And the resort's really pretty too, actually. And then what about a favorite ride that's now gone? So a ride that isn't there anymore.
I loved the and like I can't think of it because like the actual word, like the behind the scenes, like the backlot tour.
Oh,
That's
the
what it
Buffalo
was.
Tour. Yeah.
Backlot tour. I'm like sitting here going, what was it actually called? I loved the backlot tour, like the gas truck flipping over and the
Yeah, yeah, the Catastrophe Canyon. Yeah, yeah, I loved that ride too. Old
that was
school Hollywood Studios is,
yes, old school Hollywood studios and like the walking down the street of like the Hollywood and like that kind of thing. That makes me sad that that's not there, but
yeah, yeah, I agree. And what about a show? Is there a show that you loved that's gone that you wish would come back?
we like again like when I was a kid, I didn't, we went, but the memories are just of like going. It's not of specific rides. Uh,
Yeah,
so like there haven't been many shows that have like turned
stuck
over
out.
my recent, you know, affinity for being a Disney adult.
And I guess you would say Muppets, even though that's not technically gone yet, but
Yeah, it's not
sounds like
gone yet, but
soon.
I still have time to watch it. I'm gonna go, before it closes in June.
Yes, yeah, we made sure to do that because I know I love that one too. It's so good. And then what about your favorite hotel? Is it Boardwalk or what is your top?
My top, I like Beach Club because I love their pool.
Yeah, fair.
But if I'm gonna stay, like, and I like the convenience of it and everything too. So for like a deluxe, I would say Beach Club. But like a moderate Caribbean beach is probably one of my favorites because you're at the Skyliner hub and you can get to like so many places. And I just like the feel of Caribbean. So, and
Yeah.
then top if you're staying at a value.
Yeah, yeah. Pop is a great value for sure. And
Hmm.
then favorite nighttime show.
I mean, I cry at Happily Ever After, so I guess that one. But no, like that and we just did the dessert party. So my daughter's birthday, we did the dessert party and everything again, and there nothing compares to that. And like and then for my birthday, we rented the pontoon boat and we did the
Oh,
boat.
yes, that's right.
We did that. So that was so much fun. So seeing Happily Ever After in many different, places, but Fantasmic is just like the coolest show too.
Yeah, that's yeah, obviously my favorite. I love that so much. And then what about favorite park snack?
I mean, is it cliche to say Dole Whip?
No, I feel like it's not. Just plain Dole Whip, none of the like
No,
floats or
so
anything.
actually I like the coconut version. It's
Okay.
like I I'll just use straight coconut, but like coconut pineapple swirl,
Ooh, yeah, that sounds delicious.
that
I
one's
don't
so
think I've ever
good.
had that one. That sounds
Yeah.
good.
So the next time when you go,
Coconut
after
pineapple swirl.
yeah, we get that and like when it's the 3 o'clock parade, you go over, you go to Aloha Isle, grab that, and then walk over, and then you can sit like right by the pin trading store right there. There's like some boxes that they have out.
Yeah.
You can sit on those and enjoy the parade as you eat your Dole Whip.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a perfect
Perfect.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what about favorite Disney character?
Okay, I guess as a kid, I had a hard-sided thermos lunchbox, and that was Little Mermaid, and that was
Oh,
the
love.
best. I'm like, oh, I wish I still had that.
Yeah.
And then I had a jasmine towel. Like those were like my princesses as a kid. But I think as an adult, I I love Rapunzel and I love her story, and I feel like I
Yeah.
relate to that. So,
Yeah, she's definitely my favorite as an adult now too. I loved her. I was a Belle girl growing up, but Rapunzel is has a piece of my heart as well. And
mhm.
then what about dream Disney destination trip? Is there like one park or cruise? Well, it sounds like I mean the cruise you're going to go on sounds amazing, but anywhere like in particular that you're like that would be like a bucket list trip to get to do that.
That private jet that they have.
Oh yeah, well true. That's definitely shooting for the stars.
I mean, you're asking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely cool to be able to see all six castles. That would be definitely cool to do that in one trip, but I don't think I will ever have the funding to do so. Uh, one can dream. If I win
Maybe
the
you'll win
lottery,
it or something. Yeah,
yeah,
or maybe
I'll be
you'll
like,
win like a trip to do that. That would be so cool.
right? If I win the lottery, there'll be signs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Katie on the private jet. That's a sign. Something's up there. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and for all your insight into all the Disney things as well as your epic little preview. It's been so fun to have you on, and we'll love to have you back in the future. But just remind everybody again where they can find you on Instagram and your, travel company, and we can go from there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was so much fun getting to chat. I love chatting Disney. So if you want to find me, it's the number two, the word plus, the number three, and then the word travelers with one L on Instagram, 2+3 travelers, because there's five of us. And you can contact me through there if you would like any help planning a Disney trip to any of the parks or on a cruise. They are so much fun. And again, like any promotions come out, I'll try and save you that money.
Yes, that's always appreciated for sure. Well, thanks so much, Katie, and thanks to all of our listeners. We will see you next week. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at Soarin Around WDW Pod, where we share fun reels, throwback photos, and dive into our old versus new debates. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And for our Spotify listeners, a follow and a 5-star review would mean the world. If you're listening on Apple, hit that 5-star button and leave us a written review as well. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.